Hi, and welcome back to another edition of Girls Talk 9.0, where we candidly talk about the movie pick of the week and occasionally the topic du jour. Today, we have a lot to talk about because we're going to talk about three of the omens that we hadn't seen. Omen number two from 1978. We're going to talk about what's the next one? Omen 3 from 1981, The Final Conflict. And lastly, Omen 4, The Awakening from 1991. My name is Whaley Hollow. With me, of course, the notorious note taker, Nanya, and the sensational Sunchild. Welcome, ladies.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, bonjour. Okay, so you guys ready to dig into
Yeah.
this series of omens? Um, so the first one was directed by Don Taylor and Mike Hodges, and this one we are introduced, or we are following little Damien as a young child. And oh my God, I'm just losing it. Oh, this is where he actually finds out as a young child that he is the Antichrist, and he kind of struggles with that, and then he kind of comes into his own power, if you will. So that's really it at a very, very high level. Does anyone want to like start the conversation? Nanya, you're smiling. Why don't you?
Okay. So this was interesting. It was interesting to take a journey back to the 70s because as much as we don't want to acknowledge it, that was a long, 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 long time ago. And the only way that I know it is looking at that movie because I was like, was I alive then? Was I living in this earth
Yeah,
when
it's
people were looking, acting, and dressing like that? I have no recollection of that. I think I woke up in the late 80s, maybe. But this was but it was fun it was interesting. I actually enjoyed it decently. It was very campy, which is kind of what you'd expect from anything in the 70s. So I have from me the good I have my notes. The good part is I felt like the there were still very effective scenes even back then. I thought that the scene in the snowy woods when they're walking around with him and his brother was very effective. And I thought the, finding the 666 on him was very effective. So there was a lot of really effective things in the movie that even after 40 years is still effective. I The acting was amazing. You put great actors in there and they're going to deliver, and they did. And I thought there was a nice little twist at the end. So I enjoyed that the end. I hadn't seen the movie in probably 30 years, and I enjoyed that the end had like a little bit of a twist to it. On the negative side, I would say, it was the 70s again. It was very campy. I felt like the dialogue was, again, unnecessarily formal. It was very over dramatic in many places, like Arsenio Hall's death in the elevator. And yes, you thought of Arsenio Hall when you saw that man. I thought that was just over the top and hilarious. And I thought the music, one of the things I didn't like about this was the music was overbearing. It was just too much. And it was that Mr. Grinch kind of movie. Wasn't it? Didn't it remind you of Mr. Grinch? It was just over the top. And and I'll just leave it at there. So there was some really good things in the movie, and then there was some things that was just it was the 70s, and as such, I felt like there was some of it doesn't survive today's standards for filmmaking. But I'll leave it there.
I'll go next. I just like the first one. I really didn't like this one either, but I did appreciate the continuity. They kind of tried to carry the madness forward, which I thought they did a good job with. I really thought the young actors were really good. That kid who played Damien, Jesus, like Sunchild said with the last Damien, is something about his looks. Like he was innocent yet devious at the same time. I was like, goodness gracious. So I thought they did a good job. It still felt like a soap opera to me. And I don't know why. I don't know why, because you did a tons of 70 movies, and these particularly seemed like soap operas to me for some reason. And I was getting a little confused on where they were. At one point, I thought they were in Great Britain. Another point, I thought they were in Chicago. The accents were throwing me off. So I was a little unsure a lot of times on where things were taking place. Like, for example, where was the academy? I don't even know where those cadets were. It seems like it was only a car drive away, but they were in
Michigan.
Chicago and a lot of them had accents. So I just was struggling a little bit with that. But I mean, I thought, like I said, I was just glad they kept the momentum going, which obviously, in my opinion, bled into the last two as well. So I guess they get some points for that.
I really
In
like.
Michigan, but I meant I think they were in Illinois. I think they were in
Oh,
Chicago.
we're in Chicago.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah, I know they were in Chicago, but it just kind of, I don't know, it's hard to tell sometimes.
I really liked it. It was probably the last of the, I can't call it trilogy because I don't know how many, ultimately, I don't know how many there are. I don't think it just stops at four. I think there's
Oh
more.
boy.
I know, but it would probably be the last one I would like recommend somebody to watch. I liked the transition. Okay, we saw the first one, him as a child. He did have like that innocence, devious kind of thing that, a lot of children can have, but he had plus, because he wasn't aware of his, purpose, but he had that, kind of spoiled brat thing, like he's happy he can do devious things and be protected by the maid. This one, I feel like, of course, they always have to have an affiliate, an associate, what's the word I want to use? Somebody who's like guiding him because he does still have the immaturity. So was he a sergeant? Was he a instructor sergeant? I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I
But
don't
what
know.
I knew like instantly that he knew, what he was there for. I knew what he was there for. And when he explains this to him, I love the scene where he, is in denial of it and he goes in the bathroom and he sees it and then
Yeah.
he runs and I'll just call him Sergeant, sees him and he doesn't react. He lets him go in because they all know that this is his purpose in life and that he is going to accept it because he has to. It is who he is. When he accepts it relatively quickly because when he's in the classroom shooting out all these dates and the teacher is trying to like stump him and he's 1794 before or after beginning or end of the war. I mean he was impressive and cocky and all the things that maybe like was he supposed to be like 13 or 15 somewhere in there, maybe 12, I'm not sure, but I love how he had that balance of still the immaturity. I did love the scene in the woods where he tells his cousin, I love you and we can do this. He wants to bring him in to what he's put on this earth to do, and the cousin doesn't want any part of it. And it seems like the acting I thought in that moment was really like one of the best scenes. Seems like it really pains him to have to kill his cousin because the human side of him, if you will, does love him. He grew up with him. He's like his brother, but his purpose in life in his accepting his father is bigger than that. And that scene to me I thought was powerful. I really did enjoy a lot about this second one, even more so than the first one. And it probably is the last one that you'll hear me say that about. I almost wish they would have had hit like one maybe in between where he was like in his 20s. I think they could have probably went really wild with that because young men in their 20s, chasing cars and women and having
It's a good
ego
point.
battles with other men in their 20s could have been also a good movie to make. But I enjoyed this one. I enjoyed the battle, the brief although brief battle he had with accepting his destiny and his aunt and uncle, or
Yeah.
were raising him as parents. They were riding with him. They didn't want to hear anything, much like the uncle's brother, right? The one that Gregory Peck that got killed in the first movie. He also didn't want to accept that there was something wrong with him. And I thought it had a lot of family home, like they didn't want to accept a lot of the odd behaviors that or things, situations that were happening around him. And I like how the whole thing played out. It did take time for people to come to a realization that more or less when when he killed the cousin, that then they were like, okay, this is where I draw the line. Strange things are happening around you. What is it with this? I liked it.
Yeah, okay, good. So you guys want to start from the top, kind of work our way down like we typically do?
We can do that.
Yeah, so the opening scene, of course, I guess they're in Italy, with Bogenhagen, the guy who originally gave the father the daggers, and an archaeologist, and they go to this Egile's wall, this painter or exorcist, whatever he is, who I guess saw Satan and painted everything he saw on the wall. And on the wall happened to be the face of Damien, which I didn't really think looked like him, but you know, and
Yeah.
he had like the Medusa snakes coming out of his head or something. So I wasn't really sure about that, but I thought, the opening scene was pretty good. I it seemed like he did quite a long monologue while the dirt was falling on his head, but I guess you have to kind of slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, I thought
What do you guys think of the opening scene?
it was okay. It was okay. Yeah, it was fine. The hieroglyphics were laughable, absolutely laughable. It looked like cartoons. It's like, listen,
Yeah,
I've seen hieroglyphics. They don't
Yeah.
do that.
There
yeah.
was, but I honestly, I tried to put myself back then because I know theater was not, what we know it to be today. So a lot of it was your imagination. And I'll tell you, drowning and being buried right up there with the tops of things that I'm terrified of. So they had me right there. I'm like, why would they go in this thing? They know who they're talking about, and they should know whenever they're talking about him or planning his demise, his father's listening somewhere and something is going to happen. So for them to go down there and then hang around down there, like, I'm like, were there no Polaroid cameras you put into the picture of this thing and showed it to him? I don't know. I would have like got in and out.
There were cameras in 1977. I can
Yeah,
assure you.
this is late, so that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
there was plenty of technology.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
we all know what hieroglyphics look like. They're not realistically drawn that way.
I don't think those were supposed to be hieroglyphics. This was just a guy, an artist, who drew what he saw once he saw Satan. That Egile, that he was just like an artist,
Well,
they said.
fair. But he was still, I imagine this was from thousands of years ago. He saw some vision and drew it in the
Maybe.
cave.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was an archaeological site that they were
Yeah,
on. So it wasn't like
yeah.
somebody's basement. So
True.
it's meant to be
True.
old.
Yeah.
And I think that they were trying to convey that somebody had a vision of what Revelation said and they drew it. I'm
Right.
just laughing at the fact that they dummied it down so badly because we can't make the connection. Like if we see some like, not particularly realistic version of a drawing, we're not going to assume it's that boy. So they had to make it look like the face of the boy for the American movie viewers, but it was just laughable the way it was drawn. It just didn't look realistic.
And I think it had blue eyes, and he didn't have blue eyes.
Yeah, it did have like some kind of light.
And they didn't have blue ink that would have lasted 1,000 years. I guess that's my
Well,
point.
there's that.
It was like somebody went up. It was like a little graffiti artist went in and did a quick rendition.
Touched it up.
Yeah, it didn't look like it had been there for thousands of years. It didn't look like anything like that. But it's Hollywood. It's Hollywood.
Yeah, I thought the scene like that. If we pick apart, that was ridiculous. But I thought the scene itself
was fine. It was effective. Yeah.
It was terrifying. I mean, and then they're still talking and the sand is coming. And I'm like, I don't know what I would be doing, but standing there talking wouldn't be one of them. If I had to like stop throwing rock, I mean, I would at least try. I'd be my way out of this somehow. Even though it seemed, hopeless because the rocks came down in this small space that they were in. Where were they going to put them to? But you don't go out without trying. But I just thought about how terrifying that had to be.
Yeah.
Suffocate in that manner. And
No.
your imagination really is like for those people who didn't get to experience things in the 70s. Sometimes our imagination is much scarier than anything that movies or CGI or whatever of 2024 can ever create for me. My imagination is terrifying.
So I don't understand the story. I understand the Wall of Babylon. I didn't understand this Whore of Babylon, that creature with all the legs or arms or necks or whatever it was. I didn't understand that. And then when the walls crumbled, I thought, well, I know that the walls of Babylon crumbled, but what is this trying to tell me? Like, what was so important about that picture? It also ended up at her house later. Remember, the guy said, Charles or whatever his name is, look, I got you this Whore of Babylon is going to sit right there. But I don't know that story. I don't know what the purpose of that is. Does anybody?
I don't recall, but I'm gonna look it up while we're
I mean,
talking.
yeah, I guess I could have looked it up, but I was like, the Wall of Babylon, I know.
I thought that they had tried to quickly describe it as the Whore of Babylon was this multi-head beast, and each head represented one of the nations that was going to destroy, you know.
Oh, that the seven. Oh, I thought they did talk about that later, but I didn't know they were talking about that thing because there were the 10 nations and the seven leaders or something, seven heads, 10 legs, or
I think that's the story in the thing of yeah,
okay.
Revelations. And I think that this beast or this whore of Babylon was meant to depict the 8, leaders that were going to, cause perversion worldwide or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says Whore of Babylon refers to a symbolic female figure and a place of evil, as mentioned in the book of Revelation. Her full title is stated as Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abomination of the earth.
Then I'm completely confused because I don't understand why I had his head on it, but whatever. Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Hollywood, Hollywood.
Hollywood is Hollywood. So then we get to, yeah, we're in Chicago. The kids, the two cousins are growing up. They had a great relationship. I really liked their relationship. I do believe there was brotherly love there. I couldn't understand who Aunt Marion was. I know she said to the dad, your father left me all that. But wasn't her son, was she the wife? Like, what was her relationship? I couldn't understand that. Remember at the table, she said
Why
to
was
the
it anything
dad,
more than just the aunt?
hmm?
Was it anything more than just being the aunt?
Whose aunt though? She's the kid's aunt, but she
No,
said to
she
the
was their
husband,
it's great aunt, wasn't she? I thought she
well,
was
they said aunt,
Gregory.
who knows? Could be great, probably is
I mean,
great.
nobody ever says great aunt, but I think she
But
was Gregory Peck's aunt, like
Yeah,
Damien Thorne's aunt.
no, she said to the husband, your dad left me all of this.
I think that she was the father of those two's aunt. She's the one generation up.
Oh, okay. Like
So
great.
the sibling of one of their grandparents.
Gotcha. So
Or we can just
okay.
Google it in the amount of time. But that's the way I interpreted it. She looked like she was one generation above. She was talking as if she was one generation above. And I just
Right. But she never referred to
but
that dad, the father, as like her nephew or anything. She just said your father as if they weren't related. It just seemed odd. I don't know. Maybe that's the way they would speak and
Yeah, maybe that's the way they spoke. Or maybe she felt it would be more effective than saying like my nephew or my great nephew. Like your father is a closer relation. Your father is a closer relationship than it being my nephew, I guess.
Yeah.
It was just how they spoke then.
What I did find interesting was what the father did. And I guess there was some commentary in there. I don't know. They were talking about corporations buying land, controlling the food source, the pesticides, famine. I thought, oh my God, it sounds like the same rhetoric we hear today. But I thought it was interesting that they kind of brought that up back in 78 or whatever, whenever this came up. I thought it was really, really interesting for them to kind of hit on that point because that did, move on to the next two movies as well. So I thought it was just interesting that they talked about that in particular.
I'm
Because
sorry.
originally I thought the Thorn Industries was about energy or something. But then that other guy came in and said, why don't you change things up? Why don't we buy the land? Why don't we grow crops? Why don't we make people, she said something about filling bellies, basically controlling the food source so people will come to us. So I thought it was interesting that it kind of just made that little shift from being about energy to being about, controlling people and land and things like that.
Which I think was probably, that to me strikes me as being devious and smart, because if you're wealthy, there's no reason to be stuck with one industry. I mean, you adapt with the times, and so but it was very clear that they were, to me, it was in this movie, it was very clear the depiction of evil. Evil in this movie was greed, 100%. Like there wasn't any, there was a little bit about the Bible in there, but I thought what was most interesting about this movie is just the way they framed whoever it is who's going to be the Antichrist is going to have power on this earth and be extremely wealthy and controlling of everything, which is kind of what we already know the devil is. But it was almost like the Bible was over here.
Right.
It could be any rich, wealthy man. You could have inserted any powerful man's name, and it was almost as if they were depicting that power as the devil itself.
Yeah.
How about some of these?
Aunt Marion. Aunt Marion was Richard's aunt, so it was the Thorne brothers. It was Marion Thorne. She was their aunt, so she's probably their father's sister or something along those lines. I don't know.
Got it. Okay. What do you think about some of the deaths? The reporter with the red dress. Did you see the way they threw that dummy onto the truck?
The crow coming in was very Alfred Hitchcock-esque.
Yeah.
They kept showing his eye, and I'm like, I mean, I'm not even really, like, he just looked at her and she had a heart attack or some chest pains. I mean, I don't know. It was kind of, it was wild.
So the deaths in the whole movie to me were hilarious. They were just so over the top. It was like they said a group of stunt folks. What's the most outrageous death you can think of, and let's stage it. The constant decapitations, the cutting the bodies in half. And what was it in the 70s that made us all so afraid of 16-wheelers? Like, does anybody blink if a truck comes down the road now? But
can't you hear it coming? She was blind, not deaf. Couldn't she hear it coming?
Apparently you cannot, and apparently there's no brakes on those things until the 90s. Yeah, actually, it was actually 91 because there was a truck in number 4. Am I lying? Was it not the same truck coming down the same road? So apparently brakes came in the mid-90s. But I just don't understand our obsession. I look at all of those Stephen King movies. There was the same type of horror.
Some of those things
funny and nostalgic for me, but I enjoyed it. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know if you ever saw Final Destination, but I will never be behind a truck with those wood logs sitting in the back. Like, it just did me in forever. I'm like, whenever somebody has something on the highway protruding, I am definitely moving over. Definitely.
It makes sense. The thing is, if 20 movies have that same thing on it, then you're kind of like,
wake up.
Yeah.
and that fear, the Final Destinations came out like 20 years ago. I mean, it's a still valid fear. If you're on a car behind a truck and something's not held on tightly, even if you're not going to be decapitated, you're going to get fucked up if it falls off there. So I get that fear. It's just the 16, these trucks coming down these country roads have me dying. And again, this isn't criticism. I was laughing at just the nostalgia of what we were afraid of then and how different that is today.
How about the guy under the ice? Help me understand this. When he got to the tree, I mean, that tree, either I would have pulled the whole tree down before I let go. Why would he let go of a tree that's still sitting there? They're like, there he goes. They're chasing him. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
People.
And I know nobody cares about anybody today, so I can't say it has anything to do with the 70s, but just the depiction of the lack of reaction to shit happening around you is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, did somebody
turn their head?
go underwater? Wait a minute, did somebody die? Oh, I don't know. I wasn't looking that direction. So anyway, let me tell you about it. Was just
Yeah,
the
definitely.
screaming and the hysteria.
Yeah, for sure.
It
Yeah.
was it was atrocious. Like, run, there he
Oh,
goes over there. You run over that way. Let's move the snow as we go. Like, just,
and
just let me die. If you're just gonna chase me, watch me
watch
chase me
me
under the
I
water. Just
agree.
water, yeah.
Arsenio in the elevator
Elevator. Oh yes.
had me crying, laughing.
And that was scary for me because it's another phobia I have. Like, and
oh,
elevators where I am more times than I want to be work, they just don't work well. They're always like shaking, and it's terrifying for me. And it's always been one of my phobias, and it seems to be following me. But yes,
It's
he,
probably your phobia because you saw this as a child.
probably,
Right? This was the source of your phobia.
yeah. It was, yeah.
subconsciously still living that scene.
Yes.
It was why, like for him, when he did I mean, first of all, you would think this is going to be the Antichrist, the one that turns the world against God and Jesus and, wreaks havoc and evil everywhere. He's not a very good, like, he's not pretending to not be the Antichrist. I mean, everybody came out hacking and sick, and he's just like, look at the time. You know what I mean? At least pretend like you don't feel well. He was just not, it was obvious that he wasn't sick and that people were going to say, everybody else is like sick. Why are you not sick? And want to question that. I want to see what kind of like immunity or immune system this guy has that everybody's choking and, can't breathe when they come out of there sick, passing out, and he's just not. But his realization to see like the DNA match that of a jackal was like, then the music. And I'm like, oh, it is a little loud. It is a little loud and overbearing for this moment. They could have just put a little like, Michael Myers is coming or something type of music, but they did go a little overboard with it.
How about the death that really had me was the guy when he went to I'm sorry, brought the dad to see the picture and he's standing on the train tracks and the train is coming and he's holding the cross to his mouth and this loud ass train is coming. He decides not to move and then the train nips him and drags him down and crushes him between the other train. Did you get like you deserve that. Like honestly, I don't wish death on anybody. You deserve that one though. Like why when you get the heck off the train tracks? That's why they have the horns. That's why they're train tracks. It's not the sidewalk. Like what do you what have you learned in your 50 years, dude? Like
Yeah, he was relying.
First encounter with train tracks.
yeah. Oh, is that what it was? That's right.
What kind of sidewalk is this in 1977?
Right.
He had a green, wasn't it a green cross with flowers? I didn't even look like her. I don't know what that was.
It did look like a cross, and I don't know.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Do you think somehow they're just so terrified they just don't want to live in the world where Antichrist is? I mean, I don't know. I'm still like, I thought human response would be survival. I thought human, people say if you're drowning or even if you're choking in your sleep, you wake up because the natural reaction is to live. I don't know. It's just odd.
All right, well, let's jump back up to when Damon finds out that he is the Antichrist. I really felt bad for him because I think that really hurt him because he didn't want to, I don't think he wanted to be different. You know what I mean? And I think as he was reading the Bible, obviously nothing in there sounded pleasant. Like, who would want this? And then he goes in the bathroom, like Sunshine says, with the mirror, and he sees it, and he just starts running, and he screams, "Why? Like, why me?" I really felt bad. I really, really felt bad for him because I don't think he was. I don't know if you ever ready, but I don't think he was an evil kid. At least he doesn't remember being evil as a kid. But the years he was with his uncle's family, and I thought about, maybe because they nurtured him, because we know he was evil in the first one, but maybe they nurtured him, and because of that, the kindness came out. And I felt like if that guy hadn't come on the scene, maybe he would still be a kind person. Do you know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
felt he was nurtured a lot.
Yes, that's a very interesting uh, take on it. He definitely was an innocent child, right? He said he wasn't brought up in. Because I actually wrote on my notes here. I said, "Wait a minute, the Antichrist himself got to read the Bible." Like when he told him to go read the Bible, I thought, nobody giving him no cliff notes and nothing. It's like, no, a 12-year-old can't read the Bible when they're not the Antichrist. Like, what are you talking about? But I thought it was interesting that it was thrown upon him. And no child wants to be different. No child wants to wear a red coat when everyone's wearing blue.
Right.
You want to be the Antichrist.
Right.
That was normal, and I did enjoy it. So I think there were so many effective scenes. That was certainly one of them for me personally. And I thought the acting was amazing. That little kid looked like a young Crispin Glover. Do you guys remember him? Crispin Glover, whatever his name is. He played the bad kid in Back to the Future.
Oh, I don't
Oh, I
remember.
can't.
Oh, yeah. If you pull him up, you'll be like, yeah. But anywho, that's neither here nor there. Um, I thought it was an interesting take that, would he not be evil if no one ever told him about that?
Right.
And I think that presumes that that's how he would see it once he knew what his destiny was. Said differently, there are people who bomb places all the time who would never think of themselves as evil.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm.
So if he then said, okay, well, this is my destiny, I have to do these things that the Bible prescribes, he may still not see himself as evil.
Right. Right.
So I thought that was interesting, your take on it's food for thought to think about what if you could take, because that might be how you foil it right there, right? What if you know who the Antichrist is? Okay, well then just kidnap him, go put him in this, nice little town in Sweden and let him live his life out, and he'll never know the difference. But is that really, like, isn't it his destiny? Doesn't he have to become this? Isn't it part of his fulfilling? Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
It is. I do think it's his destiny, and I don't think he has any, he has any choice. He sees that symbol, he reads the Bible, and I think that there may be a certain level because it's like human. He's young, and now he realizes he has this power. I mean, I wouldn't want that kind of evil power, but I mean, this is who he is. So he is young and he realizes that he is going to be like a leader and he has all this power and he has the ability at 13 or 15 or however old he's supposed to be in that movie. He is going to be more powerful than any adults around him, than any person who tries to tell him anything. And I think that's kind of like the spoiled brat, side of him that embraces it. He knows he doesn't have a choice and he embraces it. But I love that moment of weakness with the cousin in the woods when the cousin's like, I know who you are. Like, I heard them talking and I don't want you near me, you're the devil. And he really seems like hurt, like, just, take my hand, come with me, and we can do this together. So that is the human side of him. And I think they did nurture him. He grew up with him. He never wanted his parents in any of these sequels or movies thereafter. They're always saying he won't let you have another baby. He won't let there be another child. But he came into the situation with a child already being there. And he had that human bond with him. I think he genuinely had love for his cousin. And I think that was a very painful moment for him to have to choose between his love for his cousin, his destiny, and his father. And he's just like,
I don't think he had a choice. And even if you think about the Bible, even Jesus on the cross said, God, why hast thou forsaken me? You are always going to have doubts. You are always going to, Moses said, why me, Lord?
Right.
It's always going to be, of all the billions of people, why me? And so, and I don't think it's not like he went outside and immediately started giving like eye rays and killing people. He knew he was already affluent. So he already had a level of power just as being a kid.
Yeah.
And I think that he was just grasping the concept that he was going to be different. more so than he was going to be evil different. Just different alone, I think, is hard enough for anyone. Like, why am I singled out? And I think the reason maybe there wasn't one in the 20s, I don't know, when in his 20s, although I agree with you, I think it would have been fascinating to see. It probably took him a good 20, 30 years to really accept, well, what does this mean? Right? Because then he goes on, he graduates high school, he, dates women, he starts a career. It's not like he's living the life of a devil like the way we, not stalking subways, killing people. He's living a very regular life. And so maybe it took that long for him to understand how to use that power, or how that, not how to use that power, but how that power was going to be used in the world in order to fulfill the prophecies in the Bible.
Right, right.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was interesting.
It was. It was. I still believe there's a lot of influencing going on. Uh-oh. Had he not been influenced, maybe things could have been slightly different, despite what your destiny may have been, right? Because, I mean, maybe you could trick anybody into believing their destiny is X and convince them to do Y. We see it all the time. So,
Yeah.
And you can ask yourself, how long would it be before that somebody sent somebody to him to deliver that message, right? They're going to find him on earth. Satan knows where he is on earth, and he's going to send his folks there to influence them, to make sure that he isn't like shielded. Like I think, like I said, it'd be an interesting movie to see, if you could take the, if the Antichrist grew up somewhere else and then lived this idyllic life, and then at 80 somebody walks up to him and they're like, oh, guess what, you're the devil, you better get to work because you got a lot of stuff to do. Like how that would be if, but I don't think that him wanting it, I guess is what I'm saying, would have any relevance on the long-term plan, because nobody wants any of this stuff. The devil's not going to have a child and then just leave it to humans to influence that child. He's going to do everything in his power to make sure his spawns are right there, killing the people around him who are positive influences if needed, or certainly twisting his mind and his thoughts to understand that there's no debate about this. It's not who you are as a person. It's nothing about you personally. You are an instrument, and that Bible prophecy is going to be fulfilled whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
But it's I would like to see a movie though about that, to your point. I'd like to see somebody try that strategy of taking the Antichrist, recognize the Antichrist, and seeing if they can somehow change it. I don't think it'll change, but it'd be interesting to see it.
Yeah.
So then we get to the end, and Damien controls his mom, which we knew. I mean, she worshipped the ground he walked on anyway. She didn't want to accept any facts that were brought to her. But it would be hard to accept anyway, some of the rhetoric that they were saying. But at some point, when things like, and it shouldn't have to wait till your son dies, but at some point, you would start to question at least. But I guess he had her under control all the time. And so we know that she ends up hitting the dad. Didn't she hit the dad in the face or something with the, wait, how does she kill? Doesn't she end up killing the dad in the end? Because the dad dies, right?
I believe, yes, she stabbed the dad.
She stabs him, that's right. With the dagger. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, those daggers, boy, they've been traveling for centuries. Huh?
Pretty much. All right.
I like the ending. It was a nice little twist.
It was.
Yeah. Anything else on Omen 2? We want to move on to Omen 3.
Well, it's definitely the last one I liked. So yeah. let me go ahead. I'm going to say an escape.
Oh, we want to score.
Are we scoring?
Oh,
can we score at the end? That way,
yeah, that's
okay. So yeah, so let's move on to Omen 3, The Final Conflict. This one came out in 1981, directed by Graham Baker. And this one, we see Damien is a lot older at this point. And he is the head of Thorn Industries, I'm calling it. I don't really know if it was called Industries, but he's Thorn Corporation, whatever it is. He's the head of that. He's still in power, still in politics. and he is on a mission to ensure, because some Trinity is about to happen, and he wants to be on a mission to be ensured that any baby born March 24th will not survive, because amongst them would be the second coming of the Christ, or whatever it was,
Right.
Christ's second coming, whatever it is that is the saying that's in the Bible, the second coming of Christ. Is that what it's called?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, the second coming. So basically it's about him trying to protect his destiny, his dynasty. And I'll start. This one, I mean, it's interesting. It was a bit boring, but it was interesting that he was older and a little more direct about what he wanted to do. I'm shocked he had as a secretary that was a follower right away. Like, I would think that if you came to me and said, "Look, I'm the Antichrist," I'd probably quit my job. Like, I don't know, I want to continue to work with him, but the guy seemed to be okay with it. So, he is fortifying his disciples, his following, so that I think it's in 42 years, or maybe that's the third one. I don't know. But I think he's trying to fortify his disciples so that he can continue to take over and um, rule the world. I thought it was interesting that he constantly talked to Jesus on the cross. It was almost like I know that obviously it's conflict, but like, why are you talking to the cross? Like, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, it was okay. I probably liked it as much as I liked the last one.
All right, I'll go. By the way, I actually liked the first one as a movie. It wasn't horror to me, but it was decent. This one the same. I thought it was a decent movie for the times. What I did like about it was, again, the acting. I think Sam Neill, the one who played Damien, is an amazing actor.
What's
I
that?
thought
Neil?
that's Sam Neill, yeah.
Really? I had no idea.
I thought the quality of filmmaking made such a leap in those 4 years. If you look at that, I mean, I watched them back to back. In 1977 and 1981 looked like they were in different centuries. It was hard to believe it was only 4 years. So I did like that, at least kind of brought it up to the current very quickly. Again, I thought this one, just like the last one, had some very effective scenes. I thought the hunting scene was really good. And I have a note in here about some other scene that I can't even see. And then what I didn't like, I think, was this was kind of the pre-jump scare era. And so there was just no scares in these movies. And the other thing is, I just think that the 80s, whereas the 70s, I think, were kind of goofy. I feel like the 80s were just like cheesy, and it just was oozing cheese everywhere. That's just more a reflection of it being the 80s than anything. It doesn't, these movies don't pack punches like they do today. But that's where I'll leave it.
I absolutely hated it. And I hated him. I hated him. I can't believe that's Sam Neill, because I hated him.
I mean, he did his job well.
I guess so. I guess he did. He was, yeah. I mean, he did a great job being like emotionless. You know what I mean? He was so, I guess he did a great job then, because I hated him. I mean, I didn't hate the little boys or the teenage boy, but I hated him. I felt like he definitely was evil. I just hated everything about him. And I hated his conversations with this Jesus. And, he's like so mad. He's squishing the thorns on his head. And I mean, he's not affected at all that he cut his hands with the blood coming down Jesus's face. I didn't think anything about this movie. It wasn't scary to me. And the sex scene was just like, ugh.
Where did that come from?
No idea. But
I know. Can I speak?
Yeah.
The 80s.
The 80s. It
That
was
was
so
the 80s.
out of
80s, all 80s horror movies, from Halloween to Freddy, all that shit had a gratuitous sex scene.
Oh, it was
That's
Yes.
how you knew it was the 80s, and it was stupid and dumb, and thank God that trend
It's
has ended.
so
oh,
out of place. It's like,
it
where'd
was
this come
it
from?
definitely
Go back and watch some horror movies from the 80s. Somebody's always getting murdered having sex in the bed. It's just a
it,
fact.
it was definitely out of place, and I felt like I don't know, like he almost performed this act as an animal, as a jackal, as a very like it was not didn't seem human. And I'm thinking, I guess my vision of a devil or, someone who's trying to entice you into this would be more suave, more, pretend to be more. He was just savage and it was horrendous. I mean, I just couldn't believe she didn't stop him. And then she wakes up and her back is all, bruised and scarred, and he's not even there. He's laying naked upstairs. It was an awful scene, and I didn't like the scene at all. When he pushed her into the water, and then she, he helps her out. But I'm like, you don't know he pushed you in there. You didn't feel him push you in there. Like, what are you thinking? You didn't slip. He pushed her in there. He's like, look a little farther. He's trying to get you to lean over, and then he pushes you in the water, and you dry off and go home, and you bed him. That moment of scene was just off for me. I hated it.
So do we want to start from the top and kind of make our way down?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I think the opening scene was this worker finding the daggers again. And then it seemed like they were then auctioned off and made their way back to Italy, where we know, I think they were in Italy, these 7 priests now are on a mission to kind of find the Antichrist. Their job is to kind of kill the Antichrist because they know the Trinity or whatever it is happening. And so they have to do it because this second coming of Christ is happening. Excuse me. I think in this movie, they also talked about, I don't know, another commentary. They talked about economic crisis. They talked about famine again. They talked about like the same types of things. So it's prevalent in this one as well. And then Damon in this one will become the ambassador of Great Britain. In order to do that, the real interesting scene was the way the current ambassador, the dog talked to the current ambassador to make him jury rig his door so that he could, someone would be responsible for his death and not him. Maybe he was still thinking he would make it to heaven. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting. I think the reason why Damien is so cocky now is because he's come into his own. He's like 32 at this point. So
Is
he's
that all he
been
is? No, lies.
32.
No, lies.
32.
Lies.
How old do you think he is?
I thought he was mid-40s. That's what he looked.
No, he's
No, I
32.
think he's
The
not.
dates really didn't.
I would say the dates didn't matter because 4 years he
Well,
went
the dates didn't
12
work anyway.
something. I just assumed he was in his mid-40s.
No, he's just because they keep continuing to talk about how he's the youngest politician, if you will, at 32. They also talk about Israel and what they did to just all the displacement of thousands of Egyptians. And I thought, boy, that sounds like today. Like, you know what I mean? Israel's just been mucking shit up forever, huh? So I thought that was interesting. This was what, 81? This one? 81. Yeah, very interesting. When they talk, go ahead, I'm sorry.
We were fighting, the US has been fighting wars in the Middle East since the 70s. So in 81, it wouldn't have been unusual to have a conversation about Israel or the Middle East.
Right.
Or as they called it, what I did think was weird was this Nubian Liberation Front. I was like, well, that's a new term I never heard. But I think the war in the Middle East was very prevalent for us in 1981. It was very close in our hearts. We had just gone through the oil embargoes. And yes, the Middle East, Israel, Iraq, Iran, Palestine, they've been fighting, for centuries. And so to me, it was fitting that would have been kind of the backdrop.
So when they talked about this Trinity, remember in the first one, they talked about the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost or whether, and then the other 3 terms, which I can't even remember, they were the exact opposite.
the ones I had questions about. Yes.
Yeah, some antichrist. I can't even remember them now. I wonder if, when the scientists were putting together their maps and they came up with this, that's how they knew the Trinity was coming, right? From, I don't know, 53 and 28. So I was trying to think, well, how many years between each of those? Those didn't even add up. Because I thought things were supposed to happen when he turns 33. But that didn't even work out. So I don't even know. But I thought that's what the whole Trinity was about, right? But now they made it more
The Trinity,
astrological than.
I don't think the Trinity is age related though, right? It's just about there being three entities that form one, right? So the God is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, right?
Right.
Satan was something like the Antichrist,
Yeah.
somebody and somebody.
But I
Yes.
thought it was happening on his 33rd birthday.
But I don't think that has anything to do with the Trinity, is what I'm suggesting to you.
I thought that's what the Trinity was, those three things. I have no idea.
That's that 33rd birthday. The 33rd is because Jesus died on the cross at 33, I think. But I don't think that the Trinity is those three entities, not the
Right.
age 33.
No,
Wow.
no, I know that's not the age series, but I thought they were related. I thought the
I don't,
Trinity happened when the Antichrist or Christ, I don't know, turned 33. I thought it was just on the 33rd year, but those numbers didn't work either.
know.
So
And
yeah.
Jesus was Jesus, before he
Right.
died on the cross, and his movement was already out there. So that Holy Trinity existed before he even got to that age. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes. Yes. I just thought those things happened every 33rd year, the triangle, but that didn't. Yeah. So anyway, so then, Damien's on his mission to kill all or to ensure that someone kills all of the babies that are born on the March 31st. And did you see the recruits? He had Boy Scouts, he had nurses, he had the priest. I really didn't know what he did to that baby that was being baptized, but the look on the parent's face when he brought him to him was like something bad happened. It was almost like maybe the cross was upside down. I don't even know what they put on the forehead, but it seemed like whatever it was, when the parents saw it, they were like, oh my God, what did he just do to our baby?
Yeah, it was scary. That part was, I found a little like bone chilling, you know.
Yeah, yeah. There was this one like Nunya said was Sunshine, I don't know who, but it was hardcore. Like he just was like,
No one was safe.
no one was safe. No one was safe. The way we talk about some of the deaths though again. How about so I don't understand. So you have these two priests with the
The
daggers.
Benny Hill deaths.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So you have the fox chase or whatever, and you have one of the priests going out there to jury rig to have some hounds chase the fox in one direction. Why they didn't send the other fox, I don't know, but this is a story. And so while that one went off in that direction, he, drugged the same fox and had the other ones go in a different direction so that they could get Damien off to the side. I thought the bridge looked like this, right? Two entrances in, maybe it's me. But then when you notice when the two guys were coming, oh no, no, I'm sorry. The dogs ran to a wall, right? They ran all the way to the end of a wall, right, to get the fox. Remember that when the dogs ran and he came on the bridge, they
Uh,
stopped right there at a wall.
He was on a horse when he was on the horse.
Yeah, remember when Damien was coming and all of his dogs ran to get the fox and they were at that wall trying to like eat at the fox or whatever. And you could look over the wall and see the other players going in the opposite direction. So they came to a wall. How is it that the other two priests were coming straight from opposite direct? Like I was like, how did that
Yeah,
even happen when there's a wall there?
have to go back and look. I don't remember. I remember the wall, but I don't remember that wall being at the end of the bridge. So I'd have to go back and look.
it was
Yeah, so one priest falls off the horse,
yeah.
right? Because the horse, once the horse is afraid, if you don't get off the horse, it's kind of on you, right? I
I
mean,
mean, yeah, he's
You
staring
don't
at
know about horses if you're on a horse coming up to the Antichrist. Horses will buck at about anything unusual. Like get the fuck off the
exactly.
horse. Walk.
Get off the
You got
horse.
10 steps to make. You got one job, one dagger out of 8. And you talk about,
Seven.
I mean, yeah, out of 7. You talk about 7. That's what I mean, the whole Benny Hill production here. You talk about buffoons to do. You would have been better off driving into Compton, finding 5 Crips, paying them money, and the Antichrist would have been dead in a half a second.
Oh my God.
Bumbling. I said you couldn't help but laugh at these movies. It was like,
Yeah.
they were so innocent.
I mean, I imagine that they had a certain level of fear because they know. Probably if you went and got some Crips who didn't, just said kill this dude and they don't know he's the devil. Maybe if they got someone who didn't know.
More reason to hire the other people.
Yeah.
You
exactly.
don't want people hesitating.
Exactly. Because they were hesitating of the fear, and they should know more than anything. Animals sense fear and abnormal things long before we do. So soon as the horse was no longer moving, he should have got off of him, but he should have also known he wasn't gonna you gotta sneak him as best you can. You should have went in there while he was talking to the Jesus statue, because he had this long monologue, soliloquy, used to drive me. But now I'm like, all right, enough already. He's babbling and I'm like, that would have been the time to get him. He was so engrossed in his own, hearing his own words. Somebody could have snuck him then. But if he is facing you head on, you're not getting near him with that dagger. He knows what you want. He knows why you're there before you even, introduce yourself.
But doesn't that make you, I mean, honestly, and maybe the message is that evil is more prevalent and will prevail over good. Because if I'm a priest and I really believe in my faith, I would somehow generate enough energy to kind of combat that. But there's none of that. All these people, they did what? I mean, they're just as faithful as I am. That's the way it felt. I'm running because, you know what I mean? But you have faith. You should really feel strong enough to go in there and do some damage. The other guy's getting chased down by dogs. It's like, and we know what that's like, right? You jump that car. We know what it's like to run from dogs.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the hesitation either. I don't understand having fear. I really don't understand them having fear. The bigger fear is of him living and what he will do to the earth. It would be like, okay, yes, I don't like certain or animals, but if I know that animal living means chaos elsewhere, I'm running in with the knife in my hand. I'm going full on because my fear of the aftermath is greater than my fear of that person on the spot.
Right.
It was weird to me. I feel like they underestimated, and these were the same priests who were hyping themselves up. Right? Remember when they had their little,
oh wow, yeah,
oh wow, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna do this. And they went outside and it was like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They weren't ready.
I'll find some nuns, they'll handle it for you because y'all ain't ready.
Yeah, they were not prepared, since they were talking about this and this, for so long, and everybody's passing the daggers down and somebody's got to get him. You think they would have been better prepared. But it was odd because there was a wall and then suddenly they're both coming at him. And I'm like, maybe you both should have just charged him because he is, he
is at this point, as far as he's not Transformer. He is still a man of
human
blood. Exactly.
If you see 100 dogs, drive your car down there. What are you walking for?
Right. Run him over with the car.
Hello, everything on the bridge gets hit. Why are you walking with a dagger in your hand? You can't outrun a dog. Yeah. What are you trying to do?
I don't. It was
put the car on him and then hit him with the dagger. But it's like, do you really want to kill him or you don't? Because I'm not sure. It was odd, but I absolutely hated this one. Just saying, I hated it, and I can't believe that that's the great Sam Neill because I guess he did a great job because I hated him, but I didn't think it was because the acting was good. He just bored me to tears.
Right.
When he was going in there with these long monologues, and I'm like, oh, enough already. Quit talking to yourself. And that woman, you're not taking my son anywhere. I don't need. Yeah, you're not taking my son all over these places, and he's manipulating the son. She suspected that, and she still sleeps with him because I'm like, I would have thought
because these are humans. These are humans, and that's what humans do, no matter what they say in public.
Yeah, this is
There's
true.
people
But
that don't even have that power that got that pull.
right, right. She definitely seemed to not, you know, like the influence. I mean, I think initially she wanted her son to have like a male figure, but it seemed early on she didn't like the relationship they had. And I certainly wouldn't be happy if somebody took my child and had more like say so or influence over them than I do. You know what I mean? That would have been like, enough of that already.
Yeah.
But she doesn't like it, and she still like allows it until the, you know, the end when she's like, you know, give my son.
Yeah.
Exactly. Too late.
So,
Too late.
yep. So we have the one priest that burned in the TV station, right? The one that was, why didn't anybody, when he was swinging, why didn't anybody stop him from swinging? Like he could have survived. I don't think anybody wanted him to survive. It was like,
It goes back to the movie. Like I said, it's the times. Everybody just sits there and watches people
true.
die.
Yeah.
And not just regular deaths. I mean, the most over the
The
top,
most, just like the
blockbuster, yes,
when
Final
the
Destination
Yeah.
type of deaths, and everybody's just staring like it's just any other day. But it did, when they did that scene, didn't it remind you of Late Night with the Devil, the movie we watched about the late
yes.
night? And
Yep.
they did such a great job in
Yep.
that movie, Late Night with the Devil,
Yep.
of
They did a
recreating
phenomenal
that
job
night.
in that movie.
It looked like a scene right out of that movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And then the other priest was killed by his two fellow priests because they couldn't tell. They were too dumb to make sure they were killing the right person. So they bag them and just started stabbing them. And then they realized, oh, snap, that's Joey. Like, you didn't know Joey's walk. He's been your priest brother for 12 years now. You don't know him. Like
Right.
you don't know your own brother. And then they get locked in the dungeon or so. They didn't even die. We just know they're like underground with a grate or something. I don't know where they are, right? Those two that are trying to move the grate with their fingers.
I have no idea. I was probably zoning out at that point.
I bet you were.
It's-
And then the worst one was the baby carriage. She's walking her baby down
Ah.
the street. Who in their right mind would let go?
Who? Like maybe you shouldn't even be on a hill if you don't know like that you're not gonna hold
You
on.
don't understand gravity. You don't understand how gravity works.
Right?
Stay your butt at the bottom of the hill.
Right? Right?
You ain't ready for gravity yet.
Yeah, no. I mean,
No,
I
no.
tell
Like,
them
and she didn't
like-
even
like-
chase after it. I would have been like Flojo. Like, I would have been so far ahead of that carriage. I would have been waiting for it to come down the hill.
The funniest part of that scene, because I actually have on my notes, I said baby scene, and I had a laughing face. I said effective but funny. The funniest part was the Rottweiler in the window. when they cut to the Rottweiler being like,
right?
no, ouch.
Were they gonna chase the carriage? That's what he was looking like. Like this was easy. This was
Yeah, of course.
yeah. Yeah, that was
Oh, I was crying.
they're screaming, my baby. Like she didn't even attempt to. Like I would think she would get arrested for that. Like you didn't even attempt to stop it.
She didn't even attempt to it.
So even though it was a weak scream, I actually liked the ending. I liked the part at the end where the Gabriel, was it Gabriel? It was one of the angels or the archangels. Was it Gabriel?
I think it was.
It was Gabriel and Michael. One of the archangels appeared. I did like that because it was, again, I felt like it was a little bit different. But I did think that that's the weak scream in the end had me again wailing with laughter.
Yes. Oh my God.
Wailing with laughter.
For sure.
It was just like, is that you? Where'd that come from?
From
Yeah. I was very happy that he died though, or at least, you know, at that moment. Yeah, I'm like, well, somebody got him finally. I was happy because I'm like, this, I don't want to see him in another movie.
But like, why didn't she continue to stab? Like, if I stab you once and you're still walking and I know you're the Antichrist, it's gonna be game on. Like, someone's gonna have to pull me off. Like, there's nothing left there.
Yeah, no.
Wailing, there's nobody there. You can stop.
Yeah.
Like,
again, it was the 80s. I feel like that was every scene in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every scene was let me
She had every
write
reason.
it down. Let me walk away.
She wasn't even like she had every reason. He was trying to take your son. He was trying to
yes.
do these things. he slept with you, left you there, left all those marks on you. I mean, the whole scene was so horrific. I wanted to just kill him just for the sex scene alone. Like,
Yeah.
what am I wasting my time sleeping with you for? It was horrendous. He was like 10 pumps, beating her up, flipping her over, choking her, and out. And I'm like, that was awful. That was horrendous. It was the whole scene was like, it was cringy. It was so cringy. And that she just allowed it to go on because it borderline rape for me. It
Oh,
really
yeah,
did.
yeah, it was
It
definitely.
lacked all kinds of like,
What is that called? Like bondage type stuff. But
yeah.
wasn't there just a movie, 11 Shades of Grey? Like, let's not act like this kind of
I
stuff.
think it was 50.
People are into
They had
that.
like 11.
People are into that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I didn't think she was into it because she was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, she
But
didn't seem
either
to
way,
enjoy it,
But
but
her
either way.
behavior after the fact suggests
Yeah.
she was not as opposed to it as we would be. Is all.
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
hear stop or flipping him off of her or nothing. She was still going with it. She was
I
like,
didn't hear, I'm
You know,
calling the police. I didn't
right?
hear, I'm about to shoot. I didn't hear none of that.
Nothing. Because I probably would have stabbed him in bed. Like, what? It was horrendous. It was awful. Like they hadn't been together before. So it's not like they're just trying something new. This was her first experience with him. It was awful. And
And
then
to your
I don't
point, she had so many reasons not to. Like he didn't necessarily push her, but he damn sure made sure she fell off that bridge. And then she's drowning, and then after she's barely alive, he gives her
pulled
a
her.
helping hand. It's like that would have been your cue,
Hello. That was definitely the cue.
but nope, it
Unfortunately,
wasn't her cue. It wasn't her cue. And her son got hurt in the end. I can't remember who hurt her son, but he
Yeah.
got hurt, and she gives him one stab. No.
Yeah. No, he was definitely getting
It would have
it.
been one for everything. One for the bridge. One for, one
Right?
for my son.
I
Like,
didn't have to stab it until the police came. Like
that's
I'm
it.
not getting up until like
Yeah.
my
He
back
would
up is
That's it.
mincemeat. Yeah, he would definitely been like in some pieces.
That's
meat for sure.
Mincemeat, yeah, for sure.
sure.
Hated
Want to
it.
go on to the next one?
Yes. Okay. So the next one is Omen for the Awakening, 1991. This one was directed by George
My
Montesi
child is weak. I
and
feel the
Dominic
same. It's like,
Austin and Gerard. This
Oh.
opens with the baby girl being adopted, right? And the old and young nun die. One from guilt and one because heart attack or something. I don't even know. And I'm sorry, and then the baby goes to get baptized, and the priest couldn't finish the baptism, so he gets squashed as well. And then we have this little girl who did a phenomenal job. Oh my God, if she didn't depict evil, I don't know who does or who did, because she was really good at it. She was really good. I mean, if you take and listen, the girl comes, the babysitter comes, and the babysitter's, there's not animosity, but the little girl doesn't like the babysitter. She steals her healing necklace. So the babysitter starts to question, and she wants to take the little girl to a psychic festival.
no. The answer is no. You're not going.
Right.
How
Well, she
hard is
takes
that?
her.
No. Yeah, because the mother says, "Oh, okay, I guess so. Even though I don't like you and I don't trust you, but sure, take
Right.
my child to a psychic."
Take my child.
Crazy.
I've never been to
Took her.
one. I don't know what happens there, but yeah, take my child to it. She's 8.
She took her. She took her, and everybody at the festival knew what was going on. Like every place she went, there was chaos, or then the place burns down pretty much. And they talk about her aura, the aura around her, which is negative. But of course, the mom, at first she didn't want to hear it, but eventually she caught on. And then they came up with this. You know what? I'm not even gonna swear. This dumbass idea of the girl being pregnant, carrying her twin, and then the doctor somehow gets the twin out of the girl and inseminates the mother to carry the girl's twin. Somebody help me.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Explain why that then made the girl on her menstruation cycle at 8 years old. Like, where the hell out of the blue if you're just gonna be off in fantasy land, don't try to throw some weird practical fact in there.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. Hey, by the way, did you know your daughter's having her period? Isn't that unusual? She's only 8. Well, it's rare, but she's also impregnated with the child. Like,
Yeah.
what? It was so out of the blue. Again, all you can do is laugh. It was so laughable. And this was 1991, was it?
1991.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10 years after the last one, and we getting goofier by the second.
Goofier. Yes.
Goofier.
Oh, seriously, I don't recall ever seeing this movie.
No.
I
No.
know I'm never going to see it again under any circumstances at all.
I will say though, it was so stupid from the beginning to the end. Everything about it was stupid. Again, maybe it's the 90s. I don't know. But the casting of this movie was the funniest part of it. That girl who played Delia, I feel like she is the type of girl that grew up in the neighborhoods that I lived in. Like, that girl is from Fall River, Massachusetts. I don't know how to describe it. You know, Whaley kept saying she was evil. She was just from the streets. I don't feel like she was evil. She was from these streets. And I loved the look on all of her face.
All of them.
The little kid was acting up. She didn't do all
beat him
the
with a lunchbox.
She bought exactly. She said, "You better be lucky."
You gonna find out.
I went to the plastic from the metal, but I'm still gonna whoop you with that plastic. I was crying. I was cheering her on. I liked everything about her. I wanted to be her friend. To me, she was just a typical. She just was a little inner city girl. That's what she was to me. I didn't see anything evil about her.
She was
not. I loved everything about the looks on her face.
The looks.
Yep.
Everything was
don't
like,
even.
don't even.
Yeah.
Be outside. That's what I'm saying. That wasn't the
Yeah.
devil. That was just straight up the streets in her.
It really was. She made me hate her. And seriously, the expressions and everything. She's definitely from the streets. I'm like,
from the streets.
yeah, rough time. And I was like, I had a tough time watching it though. I watched it in increments. Seriously, it was just like, just die already. I was like,
so stupid, so boring. It took me 5 hours to watch it because I kept falling asleep on it. That's how bad it was. Kept waking up thinking, wait a minute, what's happening now? Oh my God, I slept for 10 minutes. Let me go back. And then I go back 10 minutes and then sleep again in 5. It was the worst movie I have seen in forever, but I do love Delia. She had me crying.
Yeah, she was she definitely had the look. She took no mess. She was just like, bring it, just bring it.
The way she stared at the adults was hilarious.
Yeah, they cast the right person. I don't know what she went on to do in life, if she's done any other movies, but they cast the right person for that, because she had me hating her from the minute like she put on the scene, and she did not care about nothing. I mean, she was just walking by things at this carnival and people are on fire, and it kind of reminded me, what was that, fire starter or whatever it was, anymore, when she just walking by and everything behind her is just like, like falling apart, and she was oblivious to it. Like, she knew, but she had zero conscience about it, or zero, not even any curiosity to look back and be like, oh, look at my work. Nothing. She just kept on pushing. I'm like, wow, she definitely evil, and I think she had a rough life. She definitely just seemed like she could have lived next door to you.
I mean, I think, when you are afraid, you're pregnant and you're afraid of your own child, that's an issue.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The child's got to go. Somebody's got to go.
Somebody.
You know what I mean? It's either us or you. I'm not going to pretend like it's all good when I feel like you're trying to kill me. Right. It's just not good.
Yeah, you're not staying in my house. You're not staying in my house. You're not expecting me like that in my house. You're not staring at me like that in my house.
No.
I'm the only one that stares like that. You ain't staring at me like that.
That's
right. Right. Like, who's giving the discipline around him? Because
Elliot was in charge.
She was in charge.
She's like, I'm in charge here. You weak.
She was in charge.
I mean, when she so she was just bad, like just a bad kid. That's what she reminded me of. Less evil than bad. Just one of, got the kid to go up the ladder, right? Even though he's crawling up the ladder shaking. It's like, take your ass back down. It's not that hard. but he's
It's
up
not that hard.
shaking, right?
Right.
All the kids come out, and then he pees himself, and they're all pointing at him, laughing. And I'm like, this girl is just bad. Like if it was
Yeah.
just about evil, she could have killed him easily. She could have knocked him off the ladder. She wanted him. She wanted to bully
Yep.
him. She was a bully.
Yep. She was a little adult.
She was a little evil. She actually reminded me of that movie Orphan.
Oh, yes.
Because she did look, I don't know, she was clearly not 8 years old in real life. I don't
Right.
know how she is, but she looked like 12 or 13, 14-ish, maybe in a little body. But yes, she's like, I run this show.
Yep. Who run the world? Her.
Yeah.
Because
Which is funny because I watched Orphan last night.
Did you?
I did.
Oh my gosh, this movie, it was so stupid.
It was very.
I hated the music. It was like it's soundtrack from start to end, but all this Disney-esque like music. And it's like, why are we playing this Disney-esque music? Anytime there was a scene with her and her mom and they were in matching clothes, it was like they would put the Disney music on. And it's like, it was so chaotic.
Yeah. And I hated her mother.
Me, I wanted.
She was annoying. She really was.
She was like, I'm like, are you slow, lady? Are you slow? Like, what's the problem? Like,
was the first of this is where now we know where all these bad kids come from today.
Yeah.
She was the first of the helicopter parents. When they were watching her at that little horse exhibition, whatever it was, and she was jumping out of her chair every 2 seconds about, oh my God, is that my daughter next? Or what are they doing? What are they doing? I was like, calm your ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
She literally was all over that child. So I don't know what happened to that 8-year-old girl. I know she's living today. She's a Karen somewhere. She's annoying everybody around her. That's how she was raised.
Yeah, for sure.
Helicopter parents. How about the scene? The funniest scene. This is when I knew I was laughing like hysterically. Was when the baby scratched the mother's face, and the doctor and everybody else was like sending her to the ICU. I was like, oh yes, oh my God, let me see. Yep. Let me get my. The doctor just pulls out of his back pocket a magnifying glass. Just.
What was the relationship between her and the doctor? It seems kind of. He's kissing her in one scene, almost kissing her in another. It's like, your husband, what's happening here?
What is happening? It was.
Why are you going to a doctor about a 1/4-inch scratch on your face? What is your life that this is new to you?
Yeah.
What have you not learned?
Yeah, you don't need a baby. You don't need a baby if you can't take the scratch.
Sure don't need the Antichrist. You can't even handle the bad girl you got. I'm still not convinced she's the Antichrist. I think she's just bad. But you can't handle this.
Right.
Like, what?
Right. And it's so weird because, and I know it's going to sound bad, but it seemed like the couples that were there were so old. I thought, you guys look a little old. Now, granted, maybe people are having babies younger than she. I don't know how old she looked, but her company, they all looked like they were like mid-30s, almost 40. I'm thinking, this poor girl's going to grow up around a bunch of old ass people. Like, I know that sounds bad, but usually when you have a shower, people, the couples seem to be a little younger, but these people all seemed old. I thought, oh my God, is that what it was like?
I think everybody looked older then because we all dressed older then. So I think everybody looked like, again, they were going to board meetings all the time. I mean, I was watching that movie, and I was thinking, I do miss turtlenecks, so I'm glad turtlenecks.
In the 70s, I saw that. I was like, yeah, I like that look.
Yes, but we were just overdressed. We were always wearing blazers. Constantly wearing blazers. Like she went to the little doctor's office. She had practically a 3-piece suit. It was just overdressing for everything. What I thought was weird though was just again how phony everybody was acting, or if it was just the time. Like it was a fake concern. Like there was that one scene where Delia bit the face of the Barbie doll.
Yes.
And somehow handed it to
she threw it at some kids' lap and they picked it up.
That was like,
and their friend picks it up, looks at it, and she hands it to her husband behind her. It's like, think about that. What is happening that you're doing that? And if that's happening, it's time to leave.
Right. If that shocks you, it's time to go.
Exactly.
You're too old anyway.
You are too.
It's like you were too old to be at the party.
Wait,
But yes, he's like she almost bit the head off. It's like,
right.
and that doesn't bother you? You're not concerned?
You didn't find that odd? I mean, first of all, if you make teeth marks in a Barbie doll like that, that's
You
concerning.
got canines because you know how
You got
hard that is to do,
canines,
right?
seriously, seriously, because I mean, I don't know what they're made of today. They're probably made a lot cheaper, but back then, you might have been able to bite an arm or a leg, like by the wrist or ankles, but you wasn't biting the face like that. That just wasn't happening. That thing
Not with
was
baby
hard
teeth.
plastic.
Not with baby teeth.
Not with 8-year-old. Not with
Yeah.
8-year-old teeth.
Not with 8-year-old teeth. I'm not even sure with 20-year-old teeth. That thing was big, like almost clear off. And I'm like,
Right. And it
this
was
was in the
thick
90s.
plastic.
I don't think Barbies were made that flimsy then, because this girl got some serious choppers.
Yep.
And she's surrounded by enabling adults who are
Got to
looking
be
at
the
this
dog
child
in her, right?
self-destruct and
Wow,
everybody's
wow, wow,
acting like
yippee, yippee,
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what was going on with that. I thought it was so, the whole thing was, and did you see, I think it was this one, I think it was this one at the very beginning when there was a party and the woman had a clown face on. Did you see the mask? Was it this one?
it was kind of like an elephant or it had ears.
Yes.
Yes.
What was that?
It was meant to be an elephant mask or something, or a mouse mask. I don't know. It was like an animal mask.
Oh,
It
okay. I
was
thought it
one
was
of
supposed to
those
be a
that
clown. I was like, what kind of distorted?
No, I think it was an
is
animal.
that? Huh?
It was an animal because it had round ears. It was like an animal mask, but the mask was from the nose up.
It was odd.
God, yeah, it was odd.
It was odd.
What's going on with that? No kids
Yeah.
asking for that.
I mean, if I think I didn't like 3, like this was the one for me. This was, I mean, I had such a hard time watching this thing, and I would rewind, like, what just happened? How are we here? None of it made any sense to me. I can't, like, none of it didn't connect. It was like different movies, all one worse than the next. It was,
And it was
different movies,
supposed to
different
be
genres. It was like it was popping. The music was going back and forth between Disney family drama, rom-com, horror.
it was
All over the place.
It was all over the place. And this was supposed to be Damien's daughter, which
Right.
means the only person he was with, because he said that he didn't really date, is the reporter.
right.
Right? I mean, I'm
Killing
speculating.
him because
Yes, he died at that point. So
having a baby by him, like, I'm sorry, but if she found out she was knocked up after that, like, there's no possible way under any circumstances, no matter how much faith you have, like, you know who he was. That's why you killed him. You're gonna have his seedling.
I think that's why she gave it up for adoption.
I wouldn't have even carried that thing. I'd have been like, this evil is not fermenting inside of me. So
No.
The worst thing is she gave it up for adoption. It's like, if you're not going to kill that child, you need to raise that child. Don't be putting it out under
putting it out in the world, just
Right. Yes.
with no instructions, no
zero, no instructions, no note saying, you know, his.
Yeah, I think this child was the Antichrist. Exactly. No, nothing. You just gonna
No,
give it forward to somebody else. No thank you.
right.
That's why I think in the very beginning, remember the 2 nuns, the older nun said, I just couldn't kill her. We just can't kill a child. And the younger nun was like, but we knew that child should have never been born. We should have never given it up. In the very beginning, those 2 died right away. Yeah. And I think they both knew. They both knew.
And it's like, that ain't no child. That ain't no child. Children are born of humans. That child's mother was a jackal. That's a half jackal at best.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That was just, I don't know.
It's getting stabbed.
Yeah, it was just so, I don't know. And I did like the detective, though, that was helping the mom. He went out on a limb to try to find out what was going on. And so he goes to the church. You guys remember this? He goes to the church where the woman is trusting in faith and she's a healer and believer and there's all the snakes there. And so she goes down with the serpents and she's, you know, holding the serpents to the people and everything is okay. And they're all bringing up names to her and she'll pick up the name and say, oh, son child, you will live on. And she passes a name to the minister, Nunya, your children will be fine. And she passes the name on and the detective brings a picture of Dahlia and the family. And all of a sudden she starts freaking out and the snakes start biting everyone. You guys probably fell asleep. I had to watch it.
I did.
So because you guys are looking like, what movie was that?
I remember. I don't remember him handing her the picture. I do
What
remember.
movie was that from?
Must have
Yeah,
been.
No, but apparently no.
It was off. It was awful. I would not recommend
yeah.
it at all in any
But the
circumstance.
snakes attacked everybody. She ended up in the hospital, and of course, she died in the hospital of snake bites. But the detective also got a snake bite, but he survived. And then, of course, he died too because some kind of construction ball came through the windows. He saw it coming like 30
I
minutes. He
did see
watched
that.
it. He watched the whole thing. He's like, it's coming my way. Oh, it's getting closer. I
All
think
the,
it's really
all the
close.
bystanders, I mean, they all sat and watched too.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
like, do
They
we
were
have
singing
enough
Christmas
witnesses?
carols, remember?
Oh, what?
They were singing Christmas carols, remember?
Yes, and fully robed, and not just robed, because listen, I grew up singing Christmas carols too. But who is in formation on the street? Like, who is three behind, three in the front? And then the robes, and then staring him down as he's walking. I was like,
Yeah.
"What? This is
Yeah.
just
1991. It's not the 60s. They were not a doo-wop group on the corner. They were dressed in robes singing Christmas carols. I think it was March. No, I don't know what the month it was, but I don't know what month
You
it
might
was,
just.
but
It was.
oh my God, it was so funny.
it
It
was
was
all over the place.
Who?
I'm definitely done with the Omen movies. But I will
Oh,
say, this reminds me of how good the one that came out in 2024 was. The Omen, the first or whatever. I don't even remember.
The
the
beginning.
first
The
Omen.
beginning.
Yeah.
Yep.
Compare that to this drizzle. Oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah. They could have left this one out of the whole thing. Like.
And they could have
Yeah.
left the last three out.
Three.
In my
Yeah.
opinion. But
They
but
could have
if you
went
have to make
from,
a movie, I'm all right with it. All right, do
yeah.
we want to rank them?
Yes. Okay. So the very first one was the Omen 2 from 19, I believe, 78. I'll go first. And I'm probably going to give them all the same rating. I'm going to give it a. No, I probably liked the second one better than I did the third and the fourth. So maybe I'll give this one a 2. Yeah. And that's stretching it for me.
I'm gonna give it a 3 because I thought it was a decent movie. As in horror, I wouldn't rate it that high, but I did think that there was some effective parts. I thought the acting was really good. What ruined it was the music and just the fact that it was in the 70s and it can't help itself from that. So I'll go.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it a 3 because I did like it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the way they had the actor. I felt like he portrayed someone who was battling, internal battle, and he had that like arrogant teenage I know it all thing with ashamed of what he learned about himself to this. He did a great job at that, and there were some like very cheesy parts, but I definitely I'll give it a 3 because amongst these 3 that we're rating, it was like miles ahead, miles ahead.
Yeah. All right. Omen 3. That one definitely gives a 1 for me. I mean, it barely gets a 1. And I think it's because it was a movie and we watched it. And there was some funny parts. I mean, if you want to laugh, that's the one. There
Yeah, I'm
was
gonna
really
give
nothing
this.
in there that I
Sorry,
liked.
sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm gonna give this one a 2 because I know there's worse horror movies out there. Again, it'll get a star, one point for the acting, and I'm gonna give it a second point for the fact that the quality of the filmmaking just improved so much over the prior ones that I'll give it 2 points. What killed it again was the fact that it was 1980s, that disgusting sex scene, and it was the foolishness of the over the top death scenes were just too much.
I'm gonna give it a 1.5, and that's only because I also have to rate the third one. I gotta go. How low can I go? I I I think he is a good actor. The long monologue things drove me crazy. The sex scene was absolutely cringeworthy, but I'm giving it that because at this point he is fully embraced who he is. He fully is ready to go like full steam ahead, kill anybody, hurt anybody. He doesn't care about anyone but himself and his father's prophecy, or what is to be his prophecy, ultimately fulfilling the prophecy, I guess I should say. So I think he did an excellent job at making me hate him because I despised him. I really did. I despised him. So 1.5.
All right, and then Omen 4. This one, I'm gonna give it, believe it or not, I'm gonna give it a 1.5 because I really like Dahlia. If she weren't in the movie, it'd be a 0. But I thought she was everything about her, like her, she played the movie too, and I like the detective. Everything else in the movie stunk, but those two characters really, I thought, did a good job.
I'm going to give it a 1. And that 1 star is for Delia, my homegirl from the street. I really appreciated the fact that to me, she was the most terrifying of all of the Omen kids because she's a badass and she gonna beat you down with that lunchbox. So
Yes, she is.
1 point. The
Point-
rest is foolishness.
0.5, and that's because I can't go any lower. I mean, I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I liked that she was relatable, and she does seem like somebody I had in the first grade or somewhere in elementary school. She definitely was relatable. She was more evil than the two when he was, the boys. The boy as a child was just like a little spoiled brat, but not really like evil, I don't think, because I don't think he had comprehension of what he was doing. The teenager, he had that battle, good, evil. I love my cousin. I don't. My family. But she just off the rip didn't care about one person. Nobody, there was no one safe. Anybody could just, and she didn't hide it. She didn't like have a dog, bite. She was just like walking and everything behind her is in flames and everybody is still trying to like nurture this child. And I would have just left her where she was standing. It just absolutely, I think it was an hour and a half long or something. It probably took me 10 hours to watch it. It was horrendous. Horrendous.
Don't watch that movie. If you're watching this video, take our advice. Don't waste your time.
At all. At all.
Yeah. All right. That's it then. Thank you guys so much for watching Girls Talk. I'm Whaley Hollow. That's Nunya. That's Sunchild. We'll see you next time. Bye, ladies.